Okay, I got my favorite crescent wrench. And yeah, I said favorite because this is the one that seems to fit almost anything I do. Almost. Not quite everything. But it does fit a lot. And it works great. Now what I'm going to do is take this fitting out, as you're going to see here in a minute as I'm working on it. As you can see, all the white stuff around, that's Teflon that I put on there a while ago. And in videos before, I've stated I like the liquid Teflon because I don't have to guess or try to figure out which way to turn the tape, and it don't fall off like the tape does. Alright, so got a lot of pieces here. I gotta find the right one. Goes in here. And what we're doing, seeing how this is 1/2 inch, I figured I'd just go ahead and run 1/2 inch all the way from here clean to the back of the truck, because doing it that way I got more volume to the back of the truck, and it doesn't step down until you get back to the 50-foot air line that you plug in. Now that steps it down to 3/8, but 1/2 inch all the way back there, you're going to have a lot more volume. Well, not a lot, but you're going to have more volume than if you went 3/8 from here. I mean, you can go 3/8 from here, that's fine. I just prefer to have the 1/2 inch because it gives me a little bit more volume. So now, not sure exactly how we're gonna work here. I mean, I haven't done a lot. I'd like to go to there if I can, but if I do that, I gotta make sure that it's not rubbing the air tank. All right, to do that, I'm gonna have to actually put something around the airline hose or something, so the airline doesn't directly rub on that. That way DOT don't give a big hassle about it. It's a lot of mechanics do that kind of stuff to protect the airlines and that. And so far I haven't seen DOT giving a big hassle about doing something like that. So that's probably what I'm going to do here, because the fittings I have don't allow me to do it any other way. If I would have thought about it, I could have probably got a straight fitting on there, but I wasn't thinking about it. I knew where I had the fitting originally, and that's where I had planned on putting this one. So we'll just work with it and make it work. You gotta be careful you don't mess up the threads. I always try and stay on the square part. Gotta get it turned up one way or another. I'm just a bit on the weak side right now. All right. Yeah, it looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it in this fitting, because the other end's not hooked up or anything, and we got to figure out how far we need to cut anyways. And I always prefer compression fittings, because once you get a compression fitting tight, it's not going to leak. Where quick couplers, I have always seen them leaking after a while. And if you have to change the fitting or the line or something, you can just get a ferrule and you cut the line right there by the ferrule, put another ferrule on if you got enough line, and then put it back in the fitting. It's not a real big deal. Do it all the time. Yeah, I moved my spare tire so I got light and room. Okay, so I'd more than likely put it this way and mounting it there. Actually, no, we are good. It won't rub the tank. and tank doesn't move. It's bolted to these, and they're bolted to the frame, so the cross member is not going to move. So now, seeing how we got the room, I can go up above, cut the line, and then we got to put this in, and we're going to cut the line high enough, like up in here somewhere, and that way I can put a P-clamp on it. I can put these on it, this on it. Okay, it fits the square. That's the only thing that one fits, but I got my handy dandy crescent wrench here. So let's go ahead and go upstairs. I'm gonna have to drill a hole in the P-clamp just a tiny bit bigger, and I'm not going to bore all yins with that. I'll go ahead and do that off camera. All it is just drilling the hole big enough for the bolt to go in. And I got washers in here for these bolts. And one thing I do like is lock nuts. I am a big believer in lock nuts. Once you put the lock nuts on, you don't have to worry about them coming loose. Well, I got some big washers here. Let's see if these washers will actually fit those bolts, because those washers are a bit on the big side. Yeah. Okay, and I got plenty of those washers. So that's what we're going to use. We're going to use these smaller washers, because these big washers actually would have a problem going on there. But with this, it'll actually cover the hole up, and it'll prevent it from going through that hole. So we're good. We may even use one of the bigger washers on the back side of that hole instead of small ones, because it is a bigger washer, and these bolts are actually a little small. The head won't fit through, but they are a little loose. And if I do something like that, then we got the big washer on the back side, and we'll put a small washer up on the P-clamp side, and that'll be good for that. Okay, well, I gotta go get the drill and drill these out to fit these other bolts, and I got half a dozen of them to do. So I'm just going to drill them all at one time off camera instead of wasting you guys' time. Okay, we went ahead and drilled all those, so now they all fit. All right, now I need a few tools for up there, and what I'm going to do, instead of trying to get around, instead of trying to make it and have a trouble getting between these tanks or trying to get around the tanks, the other side has a toolbox on it. If you watched the earlier videos, you would have seen the toolbox with the steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the other side of the truck and climb up those steps, and then I'm going to step down in between the frame rails, and that way it'll make it a whole lot easier for me to be able to get to everything up there, because I got to cut that line and put the fitting in and bolt it all up at that point anyways. Now I will be bolting it up further down the frame rail so it all stays in place and doesn't get against the frame and cause what DOT calls chafing, rubbing on something. I actually seen a video where they wrote up a driver during the 72-hour blitz for a mark on an airline, not a rub mark, or not a rubbing to where it took anything off the airline, just a mark, and they wrote him a fine for it. And honestly, that's kind of ridiculous. Everybody's out here trying to make a living, and DOT wants to do stuff like that because there's a mark on an airline. I mean, how ridiculous can you get? Well, apparently DOT can get real ridiculous. All right, so we're going to take this one that I've already got the rubber hose in, and I didn't tighten anything up, so that allowed me to do what I just did. And I'm going to put the rubber or the air line through here. And of course it wants to give me a hassle, so we'll spread it a little bit. Trying to make it easier. Okay, we want it to be over here, so we need to go on this way. And the reason I'm putting the P-clamp on now is because I need to figure out where I'm going to cut the hose. So I need to have it down in that fitting. I need to have the P-clamp mounted somewhat, so I can figure out where to cut the hose and put the next fitting in. If I just cut the hose and didn't think about that, it might be a little short. Okay, now I said we're going to cut it so it's up here. Dang mosquitoes. So get my trusty razor knife here. I want it about the center of the frame, so it's got to go up inside this fitting a little bit. So we want to cut it right about in here, which will give us enough line to do what we need to do. Okay, now this line here is, that's part of the line is going to run the length of the frame. So now we can go ahead and try and get the P-clamp on here. I thought I brought, yeah, I thought I brought this. Just had to find it. Sometimes I'm blind. Okay. Now I don't want to squeeze together that way, so we'll take it back off the bolt. Squeeze it together, and then we'll put it on. Thought I had a pair of pliers here. Okay, I got a pair of pliers here. Oh, there they are. So what we're going to do is we're just going to squeeze it together as tight as we can so I can get the bolt in. And honestly, it doesn't matter if I send the bolt out in that way and hide the nut, which probably will look better, or go ahead and put the bolt out. Honestly, I think it looks better if I do it this way. Plus, it'll allow me to screw the bolt into the P-clamp, because the holes are not perfectly lined up, but screwing it, it will screw in, and that will help out a lot as far as getting it through the cross member. So that'll also allow me to hide the nut if the bolt's long enough, which I'm not sure yet. It should be, once I get the P-clamp squeezed together. And it will hold this line nice and tight. Because we had a lot sticking out. Oh yeah, I can fill it in there. So we got plenty in there. Put the washer on. Get the nut started. Look at the nut, make sure which way I'm... Yeah, okay. Get that nut, or that washer, I mean, or just reach down and get the entire bucket. Okay. Got that on there. Make sure I put the nut on the proper directions so it actually goes on, and feel around and find the bolt and get it started. Oh, it's there somewhere. Okay, we're started. All right, what size do we have here? 1/2 inch. Need a 1/2 inch wrench. 9/16, 7/16, 5/8. Now I have a little set here. Ah, there it is, 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to go ahead and snug this up. I'm not going to tighten it up yet. I just don't want things falling apart. I mean, I still got a gap there that I can tighten down, but I don't want to do that until I've got this all hooked up. And we got to put these two together, and got to use Teflon to do that. So before I go ahead and tighten it all up and put it on the line, go ahead and do this part out here, because I know that square is 3/4. I got my favorite crescent wrench, so I can tighten all that up. And I'm not worried about the orientation, because when I put it on the line, I can always turn it where I need to. There we go. Okay, now we can go ahead and put this one on the line. Not too worried about being able to tighten it up, because I didn't tighten that P-clamp up, so that's not a problem. Just go ahead, and sometimes you can get the line to go in the fitting without taking the fitting apart. Sometimes you can't. It wanted to give me a hassle, so I'm just going to take the nut and ferrule off and then put the fitting on. And even after I tighten this up, if I need to, I can loosen it up and turn this fitting. So I'll just go ahead and tighten this down on the airline. Okay, now that this is all tightened up, what we're going to do is, we got the rest of the line here, and what you want to do is run it back the frame. Now I can only run it so far, being where I'm at in between the frame. I'm going to have to get out of here to finish running it all the way back, but I can get it started down the frame. But you want to get it all the way back where you need to go without beating yourself up with it, and get it plugged in so you actually know where you're going. Okay, these fittings would give me a hassle. They don't want to slide in the way I wanted to, so just had to take them apart to do it. But you just find any hole in the frame, or find a small bolt in the frame to put your next P-clamp. Now there's a hole right here that I'm going to utilize. Put it in there, and like I showed before, just put the P-clamp around there. I'm going to be putting rubber there to be able to make it work nice and tight. And the P-clamp's going to hold it away from the frame far enough to make DOT happy. And you just put the bolt in there. You tighten that one down. You go to the next one. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the video right here. I'll pick it back up when I'm actually putting the last fitting on at the very back. There's no sense in me showing you every hole that I'm going to utilize, because it's the same process. Okay, I'll get back with you in a few minutes. Okay, I ran the line, like I said. I'm running back along the frame here. I put some P-clamps in here, and because it's going underneath this cross member and it's a real tight fit here, I went ahead and put a piece of hose in here for the airline to ride in. That way DOT can't give me a hassle about it rubbing against the frame, because there's a piece of hose around it. And then I had to think about how to attach it back here, and the solution I come up with here is back here at the mud flap. I went ahead and loosened this nut up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this piece of angle down in here, universal angle with all these holes in it, and then just go ahead and put the nut back on. And because of the angle, It can't come up because of this bolt here. It can't go down, so it's going to be wedged in here where it can't move. So DOT would be fine with that because it's going to be securely mounted. And then I just take a 3/4 inch socket with an impact, go ahead and tighten up that nut, and the angle's nice and tight. And then what I'm going to do here is my fitting. I'm going to go ahead and put it on here, and this one slid on. And actually I need to put this P-clamp on here first, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bolt it right there, put that there, then I got my connection. Just go ahead and bolt this up, go down through the P-clamp, and the bolt does not hit, so we're good there. But I mean, it's going to be close. And then the only thing that will be left is using soapy water to go ahead and test it, make sure nothing leaks. Just a whole lot easier doing it this way than trying to start the nut with it on there. This way it's securely mounted. It can't rub the airline against the frame. And as you're going to see, once I tighten this up, I'm going to show you something. I can hook up my airline just by bringing it down here, bring my airline in. It'll be bent a little bit, but being a plastic airline, it's fine. And that gives me the extension I need and allows me to get to the air, and I won't have any more problems reaching a trailer tire with a 50-foot hose. So now all I gotta do is go ahead and tighten up the fittings. I still gotta tighten up the silver one too, because I just got it screwed in there. It's not tight. And like I said, I like compression fittings because once they're on there, you don't have to worry about them leaking. I could have probably took a die grinder and trimmed this way, but it's going to be fine. There we go. Done. Lines run all the way. Like I said, the only thing left, checking for air leaks. But that's just relocating the fitting for the airline. Tear up tires or whatever. And with a 50-foot hose, I can still reach from here to the steer tires if I have to change the steer tire with what I have on board. So go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye.